Hi, welcome to another reading from You Will Say I'm No Christian, the Thomas Jefferson John Adams Correspondence on Religion. Thomas Jefferson to John Adams, June 11th, 1812. You ask if there is any book that pretends to give any account of the traditions of the Indians, or how one can acquire an idea of them. Some scanty accounts of their traditions, but fuller of their customs and characters, are given us by most of the early travelers. Among them, these, were mostly French, Lafitau among them, and Adair, an Englishman, have written on this subject, the former 2 volumes, the latter 1. But unluckily, Lafitau had in his head a preconceived theory on the mythology, manners, institutions, and government of the ancient nations of Europe, Asia, and Africa, and seems to have entered on those of America only to fit them into the same frame, and to draw from them a confirmation of his general theory. He keeps up a perpetual parallel in all those articles between the Indians of America and the ancients of the other quarters of the globe. He selects, therefore, all the facts and adopts all the falsehoods which favor this theory, and very gravely retells such absurdities as zeal for theory could alone swallow. He was a man of much classical and scriptural reading, and has rendered his book not unentertaining. He resided 5 years among the northern Indians as a missionary, but collects his matter much more from the writings of others than from his own observation. Adair, too, had his kink. He believed all the Indians of America to be descended from the Jews. The same laws, usages, rites, and ceremonies, the same sacrifices, priests, prophets, fasts, and festivals, almost the same religion, and that they all spoke Hebrew. For although he writes particularly of the southern Indians only, the Catawbas, Creeks, Cherokees, Chickasaws, and Choctaws, with whom alone he was personally acquainted, yet he generalizes whatever he found among them, and brings himself to believe that the 100 languages of America, differing fundamentally every one from every other, as much as Greek from Gothic, yet have all one common prototype. He was a trader, a man of learning, a self-taught Hebraist, a strong religionist, and of as sound a mind as Don Quixote in whatever did not touch his religious chivalry. His book contains a great deal of real instruction on its subject, only requiring the reader to be constantly on his guard against the wonderful obliquities of his theory. The scope of your inquiry would scarcely, I suppose, take in the 3 folio volumes of Latin of Debris. In these facts and fable are mingled together, without regard to any favorite system. They are less suspicious, therefore in their complexion, more original and authentic than those of Lafitau and Adair. This is a work of great curiosity, extremely rare, so as never to be bought in Europe, but on the breaking up and selling of some ancient library. On one of these occasions, a bookseller procured me a copy, which, unless you have one, is probably the only one in America. You ask further if the Indians have any order of priesthood among them, like the Druids, bards, or minstrels of the Celtic nations. Adair alone determined to see what he wished to see in every object, metamorphoses their conjurers into an order of priests, and describes their sorceries as if they were the great religious ceremonies of the nation. Lafitau called them by their proper names: jongleurs, devins, sortileges, debris, prestidigitores. Adair himself sometimes magi, arch-magi, cunning men, seers, rainmakers, and the modern Indian interpreters call them conjurers and witches. They are persons pretending to have communications with the devil and other evil spirits. to foretell future events, bring down rain, find stolen goods, raise the dead, destroy some and heal others by enchantment, lay spells, etc. And Adair, without departing from his parallel of the Jews and Indians, might have found their counterpart much more aptly among the soothsayers, sorcerers, and wizards of the Jews, their Jannes and Jambres, their Simon Magus, witch of Endor, and the young damsel whose sorceries disturbed Paul so much. Instead of placing them in a line with their high priest, their chief priests, and their magnificent hierarchy generally, in the solemn ceremonies of the Indians, the persons who direct or officiate are their chiefs, elders, and warriors. In civil ceremonies, or in those of war, it is the head of the cabin in their private or particular feast or ceremonies, and sometimes the matrons, as in their corn feasts. And even here Adair might have kept up this parallel with ennobling his conjurers. For the ancient patriarchs, the Noahs, the Abrahams, Isaacs, and Jacobs, and even after the consecration of Aaron, the Samuels, and Elijahs, we may say further, everyone for himself offered sacrifices on the altars. The true line of distinction seems to be that solemn ceremonies, whether public or private, addressed to the Great Spirit, are conducted by the worthies of the nation, men or matrons, while conjurers are resorted to only for the invocation of evil spirits. The present state of the several Indian tribes, without any public order or priest, is proof sufficient that they never had such an order. Their steady habits permit no innovations, not even those which the progress of science offers to increase their comforts, enlarge their understanding, and improve the morality of mankind. Indeed, so little idea have they of regular order of priests that they mistake ours for their conjurers and call them by that name. So much in answer to your inquiries concerning Indians, a people with whom, in the early part of my life, I was very familiar, and acquired impressions of attachment and commiseration for them, which have never been obliterated. Before the Revolution, they were in the habit of coming often and in great numbers to the seat of government, where I was very much with them. I knew much the great Ontiset, the warrior and orator of the Cherokees. He was always the guest of my father on his journeys to and from Williamsburg. I was in his camp when he made his great farewell oration to his people the evening before his departure for England. The moon was in full splendor, and to her he seemed to address himself in his prayers for his own safety on the voyage, and that of his people during his absence. His sounding voice, distinct articulation, animated action, and the solemn silence of his people at their several fires filled me with awe and veneration, although I did not understand a word he uttered. Thomas Jefferson.